Welcome to the Catholic Leadership Network podcast, where we connect the wisdom and experience of ministry leaders to the realities of ministry in the trenches. We journey with ministry leaders through all the hidden aspects that help us to become fruitful ministers. Here at the Catholic Leadership Network podcast, we discuss the stuff that no one told you about Catholic ministry and strive to help ministry leaders succeed from the beginning. Our hosts are Christy Cabaniss, the Director for Missionary Discipleship for the Diocese of Cleveland, and Sarah Jarzembowski, the Director for Marriage and Family Life at St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Parish in Crofton, Maryland. Please show your support for our efforts by clicking like and subscribe and commenting below. And now here are Sarah and Christy. All right, so let's get this party started. Woo! Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Catholic Leadership Network podcast. Christy and I are here talking to Kathy Ott, and we're going to talk about all those things that nobody ever told you about mentorship. We're talking about mentors and mentorship. A little bit about Kathy. She is wife to Dennis, mom to 3 kids, and their amazing spouses, along with 2 grandchildren. She started out as a multi-lines claims adjuster, and through God's grace was led to full-time ministry in the church. Sounds like a lot of us. We start elsewhere, and then God says, no, we want you to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy is a certified lay ecclesial minister for the Diocese of Cleveland and currently works as a director of parish life for a parish in the diocese. Kathy has a passion for collaborating with others in the church to help them form leaders truly and humbly focused in and on the saving mission of Jesus Christ. Well, there you have it. Oh my goodness.
There you have it.
So can I ask first, just about your bio, what is a certified lay ecclesial minister?
A certified lay ecclesial minister is good morning, by the way. Let me start out with that. Good morning. It's wonderful to be here. I was like intense on answering that question.
Let's go for it.
A certified lay ecclesial minister is a person, particularly here in our diocese, who goes through a really wonderful program in formation of the pastoral, intellectual, spiritual, and academic, the 4 pillars of formation. We go through a 3 to however many year as it takes process to get through the academic part. And then you're certified, you interview with the bishop, and then you're certified for service here in the Diocese of Cleveland. So we are certified to assist the priests, the deacons, and our wonderful people of Cleveland. So it's a blessing.
Cool.
Yeah,
That's very cool. I think lay ecclesial ministry is really a great thing, and it means something a little bit different in each diocese. So
yes, 100%.
I know that the U.S. Bishops Conference has a certification and has an office for that, and and again, there's a lot of room for interpretation and movement within the diocese. So thanks for sharing that with us. All right, Christy, so we are talking about mentorship right now. So what do we got going on today?
So we're asking Kathy to get it kicked off. The whole thing is, Kathy, you've been in ministry for just like a minute, right?
A hot minute, yeah.
And I'm sure that you've had mentors. So we're asking, the first question off the top is, what makes a good mentor, do you think?
I think there's because I know I get very passionate about things, and I'll get about halfway through and look at you guys and go, I don't remember what I wanted to say next. I wrote it all down. So I think I really think the most important thing about a good mentor is someone who desires to be a mentor, someone who is, you have to have a passion and a joy and a love of people and doing what you're called to do. In this particular instance, it's whether it's an engineer or a doctor or anyone, a teacher, you have to really desire to do it. So you need the desire, the joy, the knowledge. You need to have the ability to have really tough conversations sometimes. That is probably the biggest responsibility of mentorship, is that you can't affirm everything. You have to say, these are the moments that we need to work on. It doesn't mean that you're bad at what you do, but every one of us needs a tweak now and then, or to learn and to grow. And that is part of being the mentor. And then the mentee is that they have to go into it with an open heart and an open mind, and understanding that there are going to be those tough conversations sometimes. And then, of course, you have to be a really good listener, because sometimes you just have to listen, empathetically listen to a person. So I think but joy and desire, probably everything else we can work with, but you have to want to do it, and you have to want to do it with love, no matter who you're mentoring.
Yeah. And you and I talked about this a little bit for the Diocese of Cleveland, but what are your thoughts on how you find a mentor?
That's so hard. Like, if you're a teacher, they assign a mentor to you. You go to a school, and part of your continuing formation and your accreditation and your licensing as a teacher is to have a mentor. Here in the diocese in particular, I know there are certain offices that have set up mentorship programs, but a lot of times it's word of mouth. You have to get out there. You have to join the groups. You have to go to the meetings. You just have to meet people, and then you have to look at the people who have been around a while, to be honest with you, and have joy. So
I'm going offline for a second here, because you just said go to the meetings, and I mean, I guess that's one of the things too, is because what I've heard this everywhere I've been, whether I was in the parish serving, whenever I was a volunteer, is that you can't get people to the meetings. So, we've all been there. We've all been there.
100%. I did it to you yesterday, Christy.
Guilty.
So
It's zero judgment. But
right.
I hate meetings. I don't particularly love to do the meetings. I literally said yesterday at a meeting that somehow I got to be in charge of, that I was like, I also hate I take my notes, but I hate being in charge of the minutes or sending out the notes. I don't want to write the agenda. I want to meet with people because I'm an extrovert and I like that. And I love to hear the ideas and the networking stuff. I don't want to do any of the admin tasks related, but how do we get past some of that? Do you think we should lean more into technology that way? Because I would think that would be the same thing. Mentor-mentee meetings is going to be a pain in the butt too.
I think that the mentor-mentee meetings that I've had experience with were really, it took an effort on both of our parts, but we were able to meet. I mean, one mentee I had was almost an hour and 25 minutes away from me. So we just made plans, and we were very intentional about it. And I think that goes back to your mentor advising you to go to these meetings if you have one. And if you don't have one yet, your boss or whoever your supervisor is advising you to go to these meetings, because you've got to network. And if you don't network, if you hadn't stepped out and invited me to a meeting, we never would have met. And I mean, we don't have a mentor relationship, Christy, but we have a great friendship. And but if neither one of us had stepped out of our, oh my gosh, I have to do this, we never would have met. So
yeah, and I think pursuing that as well. The other thing is, I was thinking as you were speaking, is that the part about having tough conversations, I think, because the thing that I think about is when you go to a meeting and the general, I'll say this, I like to use current lingo sometimes, the vibe is I don't match with this climate here, which when it's a one-on-one and mentor-mentee, I think that's a good signifier that maybe this isn't the match. But when it's a meeting that you should be going to network with colleagues, whether that's because you're a volunteer or whatever else you have going on, I think that you've got to be willing also to step out and be brave and say, that's not how I see this, or that's not how we're doing things at my place, or whatever the parts are I haven't found that to be successful, and it feels, I think, super estranging to put yourself out there and say something that's contradictory to sort of how the group has been going thus far. But I did it whenever I was in Baltimore with a group where I said, hey, listen, because they were whining about why doesn't anyone come to these meetings? And I had to tell them, I said, word on the street is this is not a good meeting to come to.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Yeah. And I just had to be upfront with them and say, and this is why, guys. And I get it. Like, you got these things going on, but we've got to have a focus. But anyway, sorry to go offline and go
No,
crazy
but
like that with you
I'm
guys.
glad
that's a
that you
great,
said that,
What's
because Christy, that's actually what stuck out to me is go to the meetings, and I just missed a meeting. Um, I'm too busy at the parish to step out and go to meetings. Like, I can't justify it right now.
yeah.
Because the meetings, are they worth my time? I don't know yet.
yeah.
I just don't know yet. And those hard conversations, it's not like, I feel very judged when I go to the meetings.
Heck yeah.
Mm,
So I don't, we're doing confirmation differently, and we're doing formation differently, and it's a tone of voice that really digs deep. I'm open to hard conversations. I'm open. I will share anything with you if you
right,
ask me.
right.
But I feel like tone of voice is something that we overlook,
Mhm.
and we don't talk enough about how one is being perceived.
And I think I agree with you completely. And I think there needs to be a huge cultural shift in our meetings too. Instead of thinking that I have to go to this, if we could in the future make the people who are going to the meetings come with joy in the idea that they are not going to be judged, that they'll know that this is a safe place in essence to exchange those ideas, then I think that hopefully more people would find the time to go. And it's so hard with everything we do to go to these meetings. But if I look forward to something, if I'm going to go out with my girlfriends for dinner, I look forward to it because we can have a tough conversation, but I know I'm loved. And not necessarily. So if you're going out to a meeting, you need to know that it's a safe space to have those conversations because you know you're going to be respected in a business meeting. But that's a cultural shift that we have to work on, and it's not going to happen overnight.
No, yeah, for sure. For sure. But I think that that also helps us. Like, the question I was thinking about that's related to this when we're talking about the mentorship is about those boundaries, about like whenever you're leaning into the tough conversations, or when it's too much. Because I also think that ministry gets funny like that sometimes, where it's like, are we friends, or is this a business colleague type of situation, or
Right.
how does that go? So what do you think, Kathy, about the boundaries with a mentor?
I think that you need to establish those really early on. And if a person approaches you as a mentor, again, you need to have that really frank conversation about what are we doing here? What are we here for? Are we two friends who are having coffee just to talk? Or do you want concrete? Do we want to talk about your ministry? Do we want to have the conversation about what you're doing and maybe areas that we can improve? But that's something that you establish early on. I'm not always sure that mentor-mentee relationships are great, at least at the beginning, should be great friendships because it's very similar to like spiritual direction where they tell us when your emotions get involved as spiritual directors, it can cloud your judgment. Because if you love someone, it's harder to be super direct with them sometimes. So in a mentee-mentor relationship, it can be very much the same thing. If we're going to meet at the beginning, we're gonna talk about your ministry, your career, your desires. I will listen with an open heart and an open mind, but I don't necessarily, I know our personal lives affect our ministries, but we're not here for pastoral counseling or anything like that. We're here to talk about your ministry. And that's kind of where you need to set a boundary to begin with. If you do it for a year and it's no more that mentor-mentee relationship and you want to be friends, totally different. And that's the same thing with spiritual direction. If you step out of spiritual direction and you don't have that relationship anymore, then you can explore other areas. So,
That's really helpful. Can
Mhm.
you say more too then about the differences between your spiritual director and your mentor?
there's a lot of in terms of Well, spiritual direction is different than mentee than being a mentor. A mentor is more, I want to say more business focused, really. And I know we work for the church, but we all have to realize that our jobs, it's a business. It's a spiritual business, but it's a business nonetheless. And so we're focusing on someone's role and how they perform their job. That's a mentor. If you're going to talk to them about, I'm going to mentor you as a youth minister, I'm going to mentor you as a director of faith formation. Spiritual direction is more about helping a person determine their own unique spiritual path. And it helps you to discern how the Lord is working in your life, which is different than the business aspect of mentee-mentor relationships.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's true. Do you know, how can you tell like if somebody's a good fit as a mentor, or like when the relationship sort of is coming to an end, do you think?
I think you're just going to know. I mean, when I know that sounds really, that's not a great answer, but it's true.
It kind of is.
When all of a sudden, when you've been together for several months, or, you've met 10 times or something like that, and all of a sudden, you're not as excited to go meet your mentor. You don't have as many questions for your mentor. Doesn't mean you don't need guidance. And, your mentor can say, hey, call me in 3 months if you want to get together for coffee. We can go over, or call me if you have questions as you're setting up your new program or whatever it is. But sometimes you move from being the mentee into a relationship, hopefully, that you could be the mentor, because that is so important, no matter what your career is, to be accompanied. I don't care what your job is, what your calling is, to be accompanied. You need to be accompanied. You need to have a safe space where you can ask tough questions to a person and know that you're not going to be judged, that it's not going to go back to your boss, that it's not, they're questions that maybe you're afraid to ask anybody else in the world. Because you don't want to, like Sarah was talking about going to meetings. Maybe you don't want to talk about maybe you don't want to bring this up at the meeting in general until you get a little more confident about what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I also think that with a mentor, that it should be somebody that you can hear their feedback. Do you know what I mean? Like they've got to be able to tell you the places where you're missing the mark, honestly, truthfully. Somebody just said that to me yesterday, a colleague. Tell me the truth. Like, it's like, I don't know. Like, relax. I don't know what because you know how like you, especially in the church, I think, because it's a polite, kind society, it's like everybody's like dancing around their lines, and they, trying to be, correct with one another and not usurp the chain of command and all of that good stuff. So sometimes like you're not on the right track and no one's telling you. And so you're like, and I feel like the mentor has to be that person that can tell you when you're not on the right track, but also that you can hear it from.
And that's all in personality. I mean, you need to approach, no matter who you deal with, you need to approach them with respect, and with, even if you're thinking, oh my goodness, I cannot believe this person just said that. You can't let them know you're thinking, oh my goodness, you
are so dumb.
You can't do the face, but if you respect what they say, and it's not you can't do it that way, it's let's rethink this. So the mentor needs to have some good language before they accept that role. The role of accompaniment with them. It's not you're dumb. It's let's rethink this. But it's about not necessarily giving them, telling them how to do things, but it's helping them figure out how to do things.
Oh, say more about that.
Well, I can tell you what to do.
Yeah.
But how am I empowering you if I tell you what to do?
You're not.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
Right. But if you come to I'm sorry.
That's just me being little Kathy, right? Like,
right.
Yeah.
And good Lord, you do not want to do that. But if I help you figure out what you want to do, isn't that something you're going to take with you? And you're also going to take more ownership of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we discern, we pray. That's one of the best things about working in the church is, you can actually bring prayer into your conversation. Let's start this out with prayer. Let's bring the Holy Spirit in here. Let's let him guide us. And then, then from there, I want to help you take the steps to
Yeah.
figure out what you need to do. I'll listen to you. I will give you advice, but I'm not going to tell you what to do. And let's figure out how you can solve your problem.
Yeah. I think the other part of that is when someone takes that beautiful moment to not tell me what to do, but to help me to figure out what to do, I respect them more and I trust them more, because then I'm like, hey, you know what? Could have told me,
Right.
just like, here's the answer and get out of my face. Or even sometimes I find people will step in and almost like borderline do it for you,
Mhm.
in which case you don't really learn anything. But like that sense that this person says, I could do this too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's so cool.
Yeah.
Sarah, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking about the whole face thing. You can tell, like, people who are just listening to our podcast and never watched, like, my face has a whole other story going on, right?
This is so true.
Do
Yes.
yourself a favor and just once watch, because my face
Oh my gosh.
has I have a real tough time keeping it cool,
Yeah. My
keeping
my
my
favorite.
face in alignment with what's happening outside my brain,
Yeah.
and not what's happening inside
My
my
daddy, I always tell this story that my dad used to say to me all the time, like I would get assigned a task or a chore that I did not want to do, and he would say, "But Chris, can we do it without the face?" And I would be like,
what?
mm, mm,
Yeah, yeah. My
that's
mom would say,
no.
"Don't look at me in that tone of voice." Right?
I may or may not have said that before.
Well, and I mean, everybody's seen the video clips, whether on your Instas or if you're so brave to be on TikTok still, like that whole thing of like somebody should tell my face that.
Yeah, yeah. Like,
Well,
you're yourself. Oh
But
my
I'm going to say that that's true the opposite way too. And so all of you that are going to the meetings that are wondering why other people aren't there is because part of it is because you did not tell your face. And I found that some people like think that they're not like, how do you tell somebody that you have resting beast face? You know what I mean? Like that. And then they're like, I'm not judging you. And their face is like, brow is furrowed, mouth is pursed. Like, you're like, really? Because it really looks like you are.
but
Yeah.
see,
I don't think you're stupid.
Yeah, Sarah just made a face for all the listeners.
My face said you're stupid. Sorry, Kathy, go ahead. This is what happens when I start talking. Christy's all on point,
But
and
I
I'm
think
just like, face.
I think it's the opposite is true too, that sometimes people are making a face and they honestly don't realize that that's the position of their face. You know what I
and
mean?
that's the point I was going to make, because I was trying to figure out how to say what you said without using the word that we all think of in the middle of that I don't want to use. But resting beast face, I like. So I have a strong resting beast face when I'm concentrating. So I am the person that does that. I'm looking down and I'm concentrating and I might be pursing my lips and people will be like, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. But when I'm in a one-on-one conversation, that's something I've had to work on over the years, is to be like, when you look, like, the hardest thing about Zoom calls right now is I'm looking at Christy's face right now.
Yep.
And I'm probably not looking at the camera. So I find the glasses to be a wonderful kind of hider as to where I'm actually looking, because it's disturbing to not be looking at the camera. But anyway, that's a segue into our Zoom culture. But my point is that I really had to work hard on not being engaged, because I love mentoring and being with people and all that, but not necessarily using my resting beast face. So, but when you look at people, like right now, Sarah's got the prettiest little smile on her face. And so I'm glad. I feel good.
She's good at that.
Sorry.
She's super good at that. But I was gonna say though, I think that was something I I've been trying to work on how I would say that to people without hurting their feelings of like, but the story I always tell is when my son was in, I think, kindergarten or first grade, I get his school pictures back, and I'm not joking, friends, whenever I tell you that he looked like someone grabbed hold of his knee, pinched him and hard. Like, and so he's like, and when he came and I saw the photos, I said, "Oh, buddy, what happened?" And he was like, "Nothing, mom. I was smiling." And I was like, "No, you weren't." And so we went upstairs into the bathroom and I had him stand on the step stool. And I said, "If I tell you to smile, what's the face that you make?" And he did that, like teeth gritted guy's face looking scrunchy. And then I said, "No." And he goes, "Oh." And then I said, "Yeah, that's not your smile face." Then I told him a joke. Then he laughed and then he saw his real smile. And we have to pay attention sometimes. Like,
Mhm.
how does your face feel whenever it's relaxed? How does your face feel whenever you're
Sure.
smiling? Because I mean, I think about that too, like running events. I tell people that all the time. They're like, "You stay so calm." I'm like, "You can't hear the screaming that's happening between my ears, but you can see my face, right?"
Mhm.
So like, if I just smile, I mean, you could tell still from people's eyes, right? If you look closely, but like, relax your face. People are looking at you and they're getting feedback from your body language.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially if you're leading that event, you need to be
Chill, be chill.
chill. Yeah, because if you're crazy, everybody goes crazy. It's like domino, boom.
Yeah.
But
The leader is freaked out. I'm going to freak out too.
yep,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People
100%.
feel the energy. They
Yeah,
really
that's
feel the
right.
energy. Yeah. And the other thing, just for folks who are listening, something that I learned in theater is just kind of paying attention to your jaw, because
Mm.
sometimes we clench our jaw and we don't even know it. Like, I know I clench my jaw because I'm trying not to say certain things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right? But in doing that, my face is saying something else. So just, if you're
Yeah.
you're feeling tension in your jaw, your ear, your cheek, just try and relax your jaw a little bit, which is why sometimes you see me like sitting like with my hands on both sides, just kind of like moving my jaw a little bit. Because it just reminds me to relax a little bit and to relax my face so that um the beast face is
Yeah.
going
Less. Yeah.
less.
I,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
learned to put your tongue on the roof of your mouth because it forces your teeth apart a little and it's
Oh,
actually a comfortable position for your face. So,
Are you sure about that?
well, maybe with your mouth closed.
I can't do it. I'm gonna have to practice that one when we're not recording something.
Mm.
Yeah, you just look
Okay, we are all
constipated.
making faces. Seriously, you need to watch
Yeah,
this.
this is nothing to do with mentorship.
No, nothing at all.
Well, I mean, maybe we're mentoring
It
each
really
other on
does.
faces. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah, it
does.
really
You're
kind of
right.
does.
Yeah,
Because
you're right.
and that just goes to your approachability.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
people will approach you and feel comfortable asking you to help them advance and grow in their career, their spirituality, if they know that they can approach you. But if you're constantly non-approachable,
Mm.
then they're like, I don't want to be one-on-one with this person.
Yeah,
So
Mhm.
and
I
they could be
yeah,
the smartest, most
that's exactly right.
qualified, skilled,
Mhm.
experienced person in the room, and you're
Right,
still like, I don't want to talk to them because they're
right,
scary.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're terrifying. So we got to remember that the way we deliver things is often, can be perceived either positively or negatively. So,
What's
and
the
we
face?
hope for
Interesting that
we hope for the positive.
yeah, we hope for the positive. Um, the thing that I just thought about is, the approachability, and, some of the history that I have is seemingly to be approachable to those who are newer to ministry, but not approachable to those who've had
Oh.
years in ministry,
Mm,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So the people who are colleagues and co-workers, the hard conversation that I receive is I'm not approachable, and people think that I'm hard to work with. So I'm just wondering, like, right now, where does that come from? You know what I mean? Because I can do it in one sense, but or I'm one way, one place. Okay, Christy's got her hand up. Yes.
Because I deal with a colleague right now at my office, and I literally described this person as this is when you're in a particular role, like if you need this person's ministry, the approach and the contact and the way that they talk to people is one way, which is kind, loving, caring, terrific. If you are a colleague in the building, completely different. And I've been thinking about this and praying over it for a long time because I need to work with this person and they drive me crazy. But I have found myself do it as well. I think that it's the judgment that we have for where someone ought to be when they have degrees or experience or whatever. And it's our own disappointment that's coming through oftentimes as anger, even like at a low level, that we're like, there is that part of us that's going, what is wrong with you? Why do you need my help this much? Or why are you asking these kind of questions? Or why have you not figured this out yet? Instead of realizing, like, when we're working with one another, there's a particular reason why I'm where, like, God has put me where I'm supposed to be, because I'm bringing gifts and abilities that these other folks don't have. And even though they might have all this skill set over here, maybe they're lacking in this one area that I'm here to bring the gift for. You know what I mean? Like, so, but I think it's low level. Like, we have some idea in our mind. It's the expectation that they're not meeting. And we might not even be aware that we've got this expectation that they're not meeting, but it's causing us this irritation. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think that's
Absolutely.
really, the expectation, I think, is important because that can actually go either way too.
Right.
We've been meeting for so many months. I have this expectation that you would be moving forward and you're not, and then there's that beast face, yeah, I think that's fantastic. Perspective. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's like,
Yeah.
for me too, I have to remind myself, because there's some lessons for me that I cannot, like, it's not that I can't learn, but I feel like we're having the same conversation. And I also do this with my spiritual director too, right? Where I'm like, I'm sorry that we're talking about this again. And it's not, the
Yeah.
skull is thick, and it's that in that spot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nothing
It's
wrong with that.
invaluable all over here, but right there, not so much. So yeah, I think, Kathy, we could talk about this with you all day, because this has been so wonderful, but being mindful of time, especially for our listener, can you tell us what you wish you knew when you very first started in ministry?
The true definition of humility. And humility doesn't mean subverting yourself, but it means honoring the gifts that God gave you. And to me, I think for a long time, it was always about, oh, well, I want to be humble, and that means I'm going to step back. And then finally, I realized through spiritual direction and good mentorship that it wasn't about that. It was about honoring those gifts that God has blessed me with. And through my whole life, if you'd have told me when I was 22 and going to go out and change the world, that I would be sitting here having this conversation in the context of the church, I would be like, I love my Catholic church, but I don't think so. But being open to where God has led me has been an amazing journey. And he has never failed me. He has always led me whenever there was any doubts. It was the ones that I brought to the table. And I shared this with Christy before, but for a long, long time, the phrase Talitha cum has stuck in my head. Talitha cum, little girl, I say to you, arise. And I found a sheet of paper a few months ago, probably a year ago, from 2015, just before my mom had passed away. And I had written on it Mark 5:21 through 43, the whole scripture passage. But the gist of it is, Talitha cum, little girl, I say to you, arise. And that is, whenever I have a moment, I just think of Jesus saying that. And it doesn't mean I arise in great power and wonderfulness. It means that I dig deep inside and I find those gifts that he has given me and I bring them to the table. That's it.
Wow.
Wow.
That's pretty
A
awesome.
little teary-eyed. with
Yeah, I was
that.
gonna say, same, like totally misty. Thank goodness
Yeah.
I keep tissues nearby.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
that
really
was
good.
really great. Yeah,
Mhm.
beautiful. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah, we really appreciate you being here and sharing your experience on mentorship. So
It's been a gift. God brought Christy into my life about a year ago and we just hit it off. And then Sarah, I can tell if you lived closer, we'd be out having coffee. So
as long as it's Dunkin' Donuts.
no, I don't know. Christy and I found a really nice coffee
Oh,
shop. Come
so
to
good.
Ohio and we'll bring you there.
Okay. All right.
right.
I'll be right there.
All right. Perfect.
Oh, well, thank you everyone for joining us today on the Catholic Leadership Network podcast. I hope that you heard some things here today that nobody taught you or told you about yet. And go look for your mentor. Ask God to put them in your path and bless you with that relationship and open yourself up to those possibilities. And we look forward to checking in with you next time. So thanks for joining us. And if this helps you in your ministry or somebody else out, please share it with them. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Peace.
Thank you for joining today's podcast. Please click the like and subscribe. And if you find this important to the conversations you're having in your local ministry, please share and join the conversation in the comments below. Thank you, and we'll see you next time on the Catholic Leadership Network podcast.